Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to It's Rainmaking Time. This is Kim Greenhouse. It gives me great pleasure to welcome Susan Eirich from the Earthfire Institute, a wildlife sanctuary and retreat center that you're all going to want to know about. She and her partner started this institute, and it's wonderful. Welcome, Dr. Susan Eirich, to It's Rainmaking Time. Thanks so much for being here.
My pleasure.
Talk a little bit about what made you go into this line of work. What is it that you're doing there?
I guess to begin with, it's not a line of work. It's a line of passion. And what made me start to go into it was a sense that we're all part of a larger community of life, and that we suffer greatly from being too human-centered and focusing on our own needs and our own personal issues and not understanding what's out there for us in the larger community. Not just the animals, though we happen to have these incredible animals here, but animals are an easier portal for us into our connection to something larger and the fact that we all belong to something together. So it's been an awareness all my life that I had, along with the sense of, on some level, animals have an equal right to live on this earth as we do, and how to help people get to see that, and not as an either or people versus animals, or liking animals better than people or people better than animals. We're in this together, and that sense of community is what really drives me, the sense of helping people see it's a win-win. I don't know if you can hear it or not. The wolves outside are just starting to howl as I'm talking.
How lovely.
I'll open the door and see if you can hear it.
Oh, wow.
There you go.
Wow. Wow.
I agree.
I did a piece last week with a gentleman who lives in Las Vegas who raises condors. He repairs them and helps them and then lets them go. But he also goes on road shows with these birds. And we had this whole conversation about what does that mean to the animals? And he had a bit of a different take on things that kind of shocked me about the animals working with him and having something to do and all this kind of stuff. Definitely interesting. But what you're doing there is co-creating or engaging with the animals. You know, I was taught when I was very young, I don't know if you were taught, not to try to bridge a connect between human and animals. And a lot of us know that that shouldn't be that way. But we're told from the old model, you should keep your distance. You shouldn't try to befriend them. Talk about that paradigm and why you're just not buying it.
Well, I do think it's a mistake to try to befriend an animal in the wild, because then you're setting them up for being killed.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean you can't feel a connection with them when you see them and not look at them as either magnificent objects or something to fear. But when you do meet them in the wild, you begin to understand that they're fellow beings living their own lives. One of the things we're able to do here at Earthfire is because we have all these animals, these bears and wolves and mountain lions and foxes and coyotes, but they're, for some reason or another, none of them are allowed or can ever be free due to injuries or bonding to people, or in Idaho, we couldn't let a wolf out. It would be shot, and it would be against the law for us to. So these animals are here for life, and we have a very close, intimate, personal relationship with each one of them. And so it serves as a bridge that actually isn't really possible in the wild. And it's not possible in a zoo where hundreds of thousands of people come by and stare at the animals, often as objects, and even if they don't, the animals can't relate to each one. We have a unique setup here where we have a wildlife garden where people can actually meet the animals, because we don't have many people come through. We have small groups come through. And you actually meet the animals, and they're actually interested in meeting you. So it serves in a way as a bridge between the wild and humans, because our animals are not wild, but you can never take the wild out of an animal. You don't want to. So there's the opportunity to actually meet. And when someone comes and actually meets a grizzly bear or a wolf or a cougar, something magic happens, and it's different. They never, ever think of these animals the same again. And so when they think about them in the wild, they think of them in a different way as equal beings and much more likely to be sure to save habitat for them, because it's not just, oh, someone just shot a bear. No. Someone just shot a bear who is a very specific individual being on this earth who just lost his life. Not that there aren't sometimes circumstances to do so, but it's the mindlessness that we work so hard against so that we understand what we're doing and let it be when we can. And the other side of that is the idea of anthropomorphism, where you think the pets have the same feelings as you put your own feelings onto them, and that's a line we tend to cross with pets, which is also a mistake because it's not dignifying them with who they are. They are who they are. They're not what we make them. So I don't know if that answers your question, but those are some of the thoughts that came to my mind.
I was very taken with one of the videos that was being circulated on Facebook. And I was sent one last week, which made me pick up the phone to you about, is it apricot?
Apricot, yes.
Apricot. And the kind of healing methods and the way in which you're relating to her. Talk a little bit about her.
Well, every single one of our wolves, we have 19 at the moment, is a wonderful, totally unique personality. Apricot has a sweetness in her, but she's also very, very skittish and always has been. And she came down with she had distemper. Why, we don't know, because she had been vaccinated. But she came down with distemper and nearly died. It went to her brain. And supposedly whenever it goes to your brain, they never live. Well, Apricot did live, and she did okay for a few years. And then maybe about a year ago, she started getting neurological symptoms. And her neck was arched and twisted, and she was wobbly, and she had a funny look in her eye. And we really didn't want to give her medication if we could help it, because the major medication is prednisone with all kinds of side effects. So we asked a friend of ours who happens to do work on human nervous systems. And I said, let's just try it. It's not going to hurt her any. And we had just built a yurt for the first time. We have physical facilities in which to have people come, and we'd just built it, and Apricot had never been in it. And I said she's a skittish wolf anyway. But Jill, the head energy healer, thought it'd be least distracting if we were in a closed space. So we brought her into the yurt, and Jill put her hands on her, and Jean and I calmed her, and I said, I'd better film this. So I just grabbed a camera, and Jean continued to calm her because she's very closely connected to us. And she lay down. She'd never been in there before. Usually, when a wolf comes into a new area, they have to explore everything before they can settle down. She settled, it's a good instinct, but she just settled down within a matter of a couple of minutes and had this stranger with hands on her. So that alone was astonishing enough, that she settled down, that she let a stranger touch her like that. And in a matter of a few minutes, she was starting to go into a trance, and we have a close-up of her eye going into a deep healing trance. And she stayed in that trance for 45 minutes. I have it all on tape.
I saw it. It was amazing. Amazing.
I cut the tape, obviously, because people don't want to watch a wolf in a trance for 45 minutes. But I actually have it all to show the length of it, And we were just astounded. I showed the tape as an aside. I showed the tape to a friend of mine who's a Tibetan Buddhist teacher and meditator, and he was fascinated because she was sitting there, she was lying there with her eyes open in a trance. And he said, that's just how the Tibetan Buddhists meditate. They don't close their eyes. They go into another world, but their eyes are still open.